anytime now.
Okay. I'm watching. All right. Let's see what should pop up. Okay, we want to say hello to everybody and welcome again. Before we begin our presentation, let's just go over a little housekeeping reminder that if you have questions, please post it in the comments below and we will get to them at the end. This will be videotaped so that you can rewatch it as many times as you like. If you have any questions after that, after on the replay, go ahead and post them and we'll also let you know how to get in touch. So I want to welcome Tanya, and she is, sorry, my notes are here because you have done so much stuff.
Too many things.
I know. She helps family enthusiasts with saving and organizing their digital photos for future generations. And we've known of each other for a long time, and she does an amazing job. I've seen several of her presentations, but you know what? She does more than that. She also volunteers on tons of projects. And I'm just going to tell you, you're going to have to go to her website to check out all the projects because we don't have time to name them all. She's active in various historical genealogical societies. She has a blog with tons of amazing articles of ways that can help you with your family history. And I really highly suggest you guys take a look at that. And I will be posting that information into the comments so you guys will all be able to see it. And I am going to let you take it away. And
all right.
But before we do that, I want to let you all know I'm going to share a video later of a TikTok clip she did on a bookstore she went to, and I made sure she's going to be able to talk about it tonight. So first, before we go on, you can tell anything that you would like about yourself.
Oh, goodness. I don't know. You've shared some about me. I'll just say this. I have been so enthusiastic about family history. I've been doing it for about 19 years now and have learned so much in the process. So I'm just delighted to have the opportunity to share with everyone tonight about organizing our family photos.
Okay. And you want to start your presentation?
Yes, I will go ahead and share my screen.
And all right. I'll go into hiding, but I will be
all right.
meeting.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, thank you everyone who is watching, or whether you're watching live or catching the replay. I really do thank you for your time this evening as we talk about organizing our family photos for the future. I guess I should also say that doing genealogy research is a favorite pastime of mine, but it's not my professional career. I professionally do information management for an academic medical center. But what's nice is those same skill sets apply. And given my professional background in information management and information science, it's so helpful to translate that to what we do for family history. So a lot of what I'll talk about in this talk will be principles that I picked up from that work, as well as things I've learned along the way in my own journey for organizing that I'm delighted to share with you all. If you have questions, as John Marie said, please do go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end because I have a lot of content to share, so I'm going to try to move through it quickly. Now, John Marie did mention that she has a video that she's going to share about a TikTok I did. I just did a TikTok today about a find I had from a local bookstore, and I love scavenging through historical items at local bookstores, antique shops, because I find that there are so many opportunities there to help recover lost family history. This is a bookstore I went to just last week, and it's called Lighthouse Books. And while there, I found a 1915 high school graduation announcement. Now, this announcement was very small. There's only 3 pages, I think, inside of the announcement. And there were only 2 graduates that year. The 2 graduates are listed. Their names are Ava and Elsie. And I just had to look them up. This is what I do, right? I find these items and I see what I can do to connect them back to possible family members, or at least make the information accessible. So I looked up Ava and Elsie. Sure enough, I found them in the census. This is the I got the year wrong, 1910 census. I put 1900 on the slide. But in this census, we find Ava. They're listed, and Elsie is actually a neighbor. They are living next door to each other. And I even found pictures of the two women. And then, of course, I had to do the work to figure out, how do I share this with others? So I did work on their family tree profiles so I could document what I was discovering about their lives. And I attached the booklet to the records for each of them. So this is one way of helping to ensure that maybe future family members or distant cousins or relatives might find this information that I've found at a local bookstore. You know, a 1915 high school graduation, you're not going to just find that anywhere. And I described this in order to make the point that our family history items are at risk if we don't do our due diligence to make sure they are well organized and well preserved for the future. Otherwise, they may end up in places just like these bookstores where they get sold and traded to others. So what can we do to help mitigate that, right? Because family historians are so good at collecting things. This is a picture of some of my own family history items as I was, getting into the journey of making sure everything is well organized. And so many of us are in the same situation where we have information just strewn about, documents strewn about, photos in different places. It's not organized. And what is our family to do with that? It makes it so difficult for them to know what to keep, what to throw away, what's important, what's not, what do we value, what do they need to know? So we can take the time to do this organizational process to help our family members. Now, family tree programs and software are a great start. So many of us use programs like Ancestry's family trees, or maybe we use desktop genealogy software programs, or we may have websites that we enter our information into. So these are great for helping us structure the relationships and the facts and the data and the notes that we're collecting about our family members. And we will often attach photos and documents to these trees. However, this is not the end all be all. We can do even more to help our future family members. I was having a conversation with one of the members of my online Facebook community that I run, and she was telling me the story of how her father-in-law had a spectacular database of family history that he'd been keeping on his desktop computer. And after he passed away, they, were going to the documents so they could see the work that he had done, but they couldn't get into the program. So there was a glitch that was keeping them from accessing the information. And so it just goes to show, we can have things organized in family tree software programs, but in this particular case, that information was stuck. It was trapped. They couldn't access it. So what can we do to avoid that? Now, when it comes to organizing information, I, with my background, love to share how helpful it can be if we look to places that do this, by trade, right? What type of places are mandated with being able to or being asked to store and preserve information? Libraries, museums, archives, such as our National Archives, right? These are institutions where keeping, saving, organizing, and preserving history is just part of what they do day in and day out. So we can look to some of the practices they employ as we think about what we can do. So the National Archives has this statement on their website that I love and want to share with you today. This is a statement that says, you have archives in your home, right? We know this as family historians, and I won't read the whole thing, but what is an archive? It is a collection of material that records important events from your family's history. And as it says, we have items in our collections in our homes that do this. They are history of our family that we want to do our due diligence to organize, to preserve, and make accessible for the future. So in that vein, it's so important that we think about, how do we create our own family archive? And organizing is a fundamental part of that. As I have been engaged in the journey of being so consciously working on my family archive, I started this initiative called Family Archive 365, where I'm documenting my journey along the way of how I'm organizing my personal collections, what I am doing, what platforms I'm using, and I'm sharing it publicly as a way to just provide inspiration, perhaps, and education, and just sharing so that if others are inspired and if you find something that appeals to you, you can do what I am doing. So for everyone tuning in, so thank you. I am excited to be able to share this with you because I think the strategies I will share will be helpful. So I have a list of tips that I'm going to go through, and the tips are organized through this framework that I follow from a man whose name is Tiago Forte. He's developed an entire organizational strategy has nothing to do with family history or genealogy. It's called the Building a Second Brain, but it's about being organized in your digital life. And part of his strategy is this framework called CODE. And as I learned what he proposes about how to use this framework to organize your digital life, I thought, oh, wow, I can take this framework and I can see how it applies to what we do as family historians and genealogists. So the tips I'm about to go into are organized into this CODE framework. What does CODE stand for? The letters stand for capture, organize, distill, and express. So within each of these 4 categories, I have 3 tips related to how we capture, organize, distill, and express our family photos, our digital documents, so that we can preserve them for the future. All right, so thinking about how it applies to family history, capture is how we get the stuff that we get from our family members, that we get in our research. Organize deals with how we arrange the stuff. Distill is how do we make sense of the stuff? How do we describe it? And express, how do we share the stuff with others? So let me go through these 12 action steps. So I'm going to try to get through these within a lot of time, but I really hope that some of these are going to be impactful for you and help you think about what you might do. So let's go. Capture, how do we get the stuff? Action item number 1. When it comes to organizing, it's important that we date our records and our photos. And the reason this is important is because our lives are on a timeline. As family historians and genealogists, don't we take the time to understand the timeline of our ancestors and our distant cousins and relatives that we're exploring? So our lives exist on a timeline. This is an example of my personal timeline. I was born, I graduated, I got married, had a kid. So these are all things that have happened on a continuum. And I've got pictures to go along with those points on the continuum. So pictures of, when I was born, pictures of when I graduated, pictures of when I got married, met my husband, and pictures when we had our child, right? So our photos, our documents are on a timeline. And we can take the time to designate the days or the times, the dates that our photos and our records occurred. Same thing with our records. These are records from my grandmother's personal archive. They also exist in a timeline, whether it be her birth certificate or a letter of her admissions process to college, or a medical record of one of her children going to a doctor's appointment, or a postcard from a friend that she received in the 90s. So everything exists on a timeline, so we can date them accordingly. Now, when it comes to the ways we take in photos and documents, we do it many ways. This is a photo I shared in my Facebook group of one day I went to the library and used the microfilm machines. So that's one way we capture information, though we may not do that this way as much anymore. But with digital microfilms, hey, the sky's the limit. We can capture all types of information digitally. And we also use our devices, right? Our phones, our cameras, our scanners. So all these are ways that we intake in photos, we intake in documents. Now, it depends on the way we take them in, but every digital item has property elements attached to it. And in those property elements, we can configure a date. We can set a date. So this is an example of a scan I did of a deed that belonged to my great-grandparents when they purchased their home in 1945. I scanned the deed in, but the date that gets embedded in that picture is not the date that the transaction took place, right? So what I've been able to do in my own archive is establish the date taken. And the date taken is a reflection of the date this occurred. So March 14th, 1945, that is editable. I edited that because the scanner was March 1, 2020. That's the day I scanned it, but that's not the day that reflects when this particular transaction occurred. So if we take the time to date our photos and our documents accordingly, that's a good organizational strategy so that we can make sure we're matching the photo with the time in which it happened. Now, when dates are not known, we can use context clues. I posted this. This is another picture that I rescued from a local used record store. Don't ask me why they had old photographs in there, but they did. So I rescued this photo and shared it with the group and asked the group to see if they could guess when the photo was taken. And they did a fantastic job using context clues. So they were looking at things such as how the children in the picture were dressed. They were looking at the make and model of the car. So they were able to figure out very closely when this picture was taken. And they came so close. Like one of the persons says, the car looks like a 1948 Oldsmobile, right? So they even knew down to the time of the car. But they guessed spring of 1947 when it kind of collectively, and that's exactly when this photo was taken. So even if you have a photo that you don't know when it was taken and you're trying to figure out how you date it, context clues can help. And whether you're able to do those clues or get your family members involved in getting those clues or asking people, in your online communities, there are ways to get close to the date because dating our items is important as an organizational strategy. Now, when it comes to putting the date as part of the digital property of a photo, we have to look out for programs and software packages that don't follow industry standards, where they kind of they don't play by the rules. So because my family is a big playing family, and every time you meet someone who plays they may have different rules and say these are our house rules, right? Because that means the game isn't quite played in a standard way from household to household. But that's not what we want when it comes to software that we're using to date our photos. We want software that plays by the rules, software that follows industry conventions, because that helps ensure integrity in the data that we're adding. Now, I don't have time to go into depth into all the different options that are available for software programs, but just know that the ones listed here, Adobe Lightroom, Bridge, XNView MP, and others, these are ones that play by the rules. These are ones that follow industry standards if you are going to go through the process of dating your photos. So that's important to know. I can always answer more questions about that too. All right, so that was tip number one, dating our photos. Action item number two, scanning at archival quality. I am often asked, what do I think about, apps that we can use on our phone to scan photos? And I have some caveats about them, right? I generally recommend avoiding using apps on cell phones to scan photos. Now, if it's the only thing you have, use it. But if you can consider an alternative, please do, because you can help improve the quality of the images that you're able to get. So the limitation with using these photo apps is that the quality will suffer. And it may not be quality that you can see with your eyes, but the quality of our images when we're thinking about the future is important. We want to capture images at the best quality that we can, the best resolution that we can. And the cell phone apps tend to have smaller resolutions. That affects the quality of the image. If you can use a scanner, that's going to be helpful. And they offer several benefits. Scanners or flatbed scanners help distribute light evenly across the photo that we're capturing. They're able to scan at good resolutions that are important for longevity of our digital files. If you're using a sheet fed scanner, that's also helpful if you have an item that can work with that, because again, the resolution of the image you're capturing is going to be better than what you can get with a cell phone app. Now, if you have to use your smartphone, I recommend just using the camera as it comes with the phone, with a good lighting source, because that's going to help the quality of the image you get. I have an upcoming talk about some of the photo scanning apps. So I can share that with John Marie once we're done in case she wants to share that with others. But really, I do recommend using a scanner, but if you have to use your smartphone, just use the camera that came with the phone. What is archival quality? Well, earlier I talked about looking to places like libraries, museums, and archives as far as the principles and the practices that they use. This is an image to use as an example of the difference with a lower quality photo and a higher quality scan of a photo. And you see that it's blurry, it's more pixelated when it's a lower resolution. So that's why you want a higher resolution. Now, many library and archival organizations will encourage scanning photographs between 300 to 600 pixels per inch. I personally use 600 pixels per inch, so I'm at the higher range. And documents at 300 pixels per inch. But you, of course, can make that decision on your own because it is a trade-off between the resolution of the photo and how much space it takes up, right? So some people decide that 300 is more feasible for them, but I do 600 pixels per inch so that I have a better quality, a higher quality scan. But this is where libraries and museums and archives focus their efforts. Now, not everybody has time to scan. Not everybody is able to personally scan, so they outsource it. So if you're in that situation where you don't find that scanning is something you can personally take on, I have some recommendations for what you can consider if you are outsourcing this to another company. So things to ask of the other company. Are scanned files in adherence with industry metadata standards? And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier is, do they play by the rules? That is, if you're using a company that's doing scanning and they're adding descriptions, how good are those descriptions embedded in the file properties of that photo, and can it be transferable? That's a deeper conversation I want to get in today, but it's something to think about. And what pixel per inch are they scanning? They should be able to tell you their specifications so that you know what quality you're getting. And so a couple of recommendations for you if you do want to outsource this. Ask for some example scans from whoever it is you're going to use, and have the file checked by a consultant if you're not sure that you are able to assess the quality of that scan. So you can either scan yourself or outsource it considering these questions. Now, as we get into action item number 3, let me also just say that, we get photos from our family members online, right? Social media, it is wonderful how much sharing occurs amongst family members as they're sharing historical photos and documents. And it's so easy to just grab them off of those social networks. But there's a consideration to be thought of in that example. This is a picture from a family gathering that we had in my own family a couple of years ago. And I have the original photo, and the file size is shown here. It's over 5,000 kilobytes. Then I uploaded the photo to Facebook and shared it so other family members could share it. But then I downloaded the version I posted to Facebook because I wanted to compare the size, the quality. So when I downloaded that Facebook version, it was only 800 kilobytes. So what happened here is that Facebook has compressed the image. They've reduced the file size. They've reduced the quality of the image. An 85% reduction, right? So if I am taking a photo off of Facebook that someone has shared, it's not going to be the best quality because Facebook, and they're not the only one, but many online platforms compress the images, compress the quality of our images. So action item number 3, oops, I went forward too fast. Get the original image. So if you have a family member who's sharing an image online, send them a message, send them a text message and say, could you email that to me? Because often emails don't compress the image, or figure out how, or ask them to upload it somewhere where you can get the original image. That's going to be so helpful as you think about the longevity of this digital photo. All right, now we're going to move into the organized category. How do we arrange our stuff? As you know, we have our digital materials all over the place, right? So what do we need to do to think about how do we rein in that chaos? Like if we have files and formats such as you see in this picture, which is some of my collection, We may have them on CDs, on floppy disks, on photo disks that you would get when you took your pictures in to get developed. So they're all over the place, and we really need to take the time to organize them better. But it can seem so overwhelming. I hear it all the time. People say, oh, I have so much stuff. It's so overwhelming. And I agree, it can be. Now I have on the screen an image or a screenshot of a YouTube video of a woman who does these mega puzzles. My mother used to do puzzles, and I remember she shared this with me one day, and I thought it made a great analogy. So this is a woman putting together a 24,000-piece puzzle. And you may say, how in the world do you even begin to put together a puzzle this big? Well, one of the strategies that some puzzle makers that they use is to start with the edges, right? They pick out the pieces that are the edge pieces of the puzzle and do those. They're easy to identify. It gives you a specific goal that's just a piece of the larger goal. And we can do that too when we're organizing. We can pick out what the easier parts of that process is. One of the easier parts of that process is just making a list. Take some time, sit down, just make a list of where your digital photos live. Are they in your cell phone? Are they in your family tree software program? Are they in your Ancestry account on your social media site? Just spend some time making a list. You can do that over a weekend, and then start to go through each one systematically to pull them out so that you can better organize them. So action item number 4 is creating your hub. So I highly recommend creating a hub as your digital home for your photos, for your digital records. So as we talked about, you take inventory of what you have, then you consolidate that all into one place so that you can begin your organization process. Now I have a picture here of Grand Central Terminal, right? This is a hub for transportation in New York. And that's what I mean by hub. It's a central location where everything starts. You can, of course, reuse what's in your hub in other places, but you get it to a point where you create this central location as your start. What happens when you don't have a hub? I'm sharing this screenshot from one of my friends, Janice, because she posted not too long ago in our online community how she experienced the frustration of not being able to find what she needed as quickly as she needed it. And she has a line where she says, how many times does Tania encourage us to keep our information organized and in one place and to digitize? So she felt the frustration. She felt the angst when a cousin asked her for something or a family member asked her for something and she didn't have it digitized and organized. And once you get to that place where you do have things organized and digitized, it will make a difference for you in your own family history. It will make a difference for you in how easily you're able to locate and access things. And it will make a difference for how your family in the future interacts with it too. When we organize our digital photos and our digital records, there are different strategies we can use. We can organize them into directories like we think of with file folders, right? On our computers, we have file folders and we can organize things within those folders. Or we can leverage databases. Databases have flexibility to them. They offer you different ways to retrieve and sort through your collection. Let me go a little bit more in depth into these two. This is a photograph that I took at the Tennessee State Library and Archives in Nashville, Tennessee. We got a brand new archives a couple of years ago there. And photo folders are like library shelves. A book sits on a shelf. It has a specific location where it lives, and it always lives there. That's where it belongs. It doesn't move around. It's got a number on it. That's where it belongs. Now, the Tennessee State Library and Archives, with this new building, they installed an automated retrieval system. And this is cool because what happens is, yes, the item that you need sits on the shelf. Now you make the request for the item, a robot goes to get it, pulls it off the shelf for you, it's checked out to you or you can borrow it. And when it's returned, the robot puts it back on the shelf, but not necessarily in the same place. It puts it back on the shelf wherever there's room. So everything can still be found, everything can still be located because it's tagged. It's tagged in a way so that the robot knows where to go to get it, but it doesn't physically need to be in that same spot all the time. So when we think about using databases, there's a similarity because databases give us flexibility. What do I mean? My personal family archive, I use a platform called Forever, and it's a database-driven approach. All of my content lives in a central location in what's called my library, but I can tag it and organize it in flexible, multiple ways. So this is a screenshot of part of my library where everything is just dumped in. So you see a number at the top, right? 11,267 files at the time I took this screenshot, all kind of dumped into one place. However, I can organize them into what looks like albums. I can have the same photo in 5, 6, 7 different albums if I want to, without it taking up 5, 6, 7 times the space. Because think about it, if we have a photo on our computer and we put it in a directory, let's say I put it in my Kuntz family directory, if I have people in that photo from a different branch of my line, I would have to copy that photo if I wanted it in a different folder. So that's the limitation of a folder-based approach. You have to make copies and take up more space if you want it in more than one folder. Databases are not like that. They're more dynamic. Action item number 6, file names. Everyone has different ways of how you want to name your files. I have a strategy that I use that works well for me, and I tend to start with the date. But most importantly to consider when you're doing this organization work is to be consistent. So come up with a strategy that you feel works for you, or try out a strategy that you feel would work for you, and be consistent. What that does is it reduces mental burden when you're naming your files. You don't even have to think about it because you have a convention that you've put in place, and that saves you time in the long run. So it's okay to spend some time experimenting with different strategies for how you want to name your files, but try to work out a standard way for you, because that helps you save time when it comes to your organization. All right, distill. How do we make sense of the stuff? I definitely encourage the use of photo management software. This is software that's going to give you many options with working with your digital content, your digital photos, your digital records. They have features that help you manage and navigate your collection, help you search in different ways, help you view your collection in different ways, and often will let you edit your collection. And I'm a proponent for photo management software exactly for that reason. We get to do more. Now, what is not a photo management software? Dropbox, iCloud, Google Drive, OneDrive. So many of us have these programs and we use them to store our photos, but they're not photo management software. They are programs or places where we can store our photos. They're designed to help us access our files and store them. They don't have the features that are part of a photo management program. So just consider that. If you're using one of these now, it's okay. But if you want more, you might want to look into truly using a photo management program. And we have so many choices available to us. How do we know which ones to choose? Well, I experienced this struggle firsthand. About 4 years ago, I was in the process of changing my whole system. I had been using Google Photos and it did not work for me. I needed a different approach. So I went through this process where I examined multiple options based on my needs. So I came up with a list of my criteria that you see along the side of the slide. My most important criteria for any platform that I would use is that it had to play by the rules when it came to metadata. These are the descriptions and the tags that we can embed into the digital files. Meaning, if I'm going to spend the time to describe what's going on in my family photos, tell their stories, add tags and labels, I needed to make sure that work isn't lost. If I need to transfer programs or use a different program, it was very important that they play by the rules. That's why I have it highlighted. I had other criteria too that I was looking for. I wanted a platform where I could edit my photos in batch. I wanted a platform where if I did editing, my original wasn't destroyed. That's an archival principle, right? If you're working with an item, you don't want to destroy the original from making an edit. I wanted to have structure. in my albums. I wanted to be able to put an album within an album. I wanted preservation features. I wanted to have a digital estate management system, and I wanted a permanent storage. And you may say, permanent storage, no one does permanent storage, but people do. There are models out there for permanent storage. So, like I said, about 4 years ago, I was going through this process trying to figure out what would I use. And so I looked at all of them and looked at their criteria and made myself a spreadsheet and a green check box if they had that feature, an X if they didn't. And as you can see here, there was only one solution that had all of the criteria that I wanted. So that is what I went with. I went with Forever. Now I will tell you, Forever is a commercial product. It's one that I use. I am an ambassador for Forever, but I chose it because it met my criteria. So my most important point for you here with this slide is when you're thinking about where you want to organize your digital photos, come up with what criteria are important for you, because what's important for you may not reflect what's important for me and vice versa. Our needs may not be the same. So if you can figure out what your needs are, you can take the time to survey what's out there and figure out if it meets your needs. So I now use Forever, and the screenshots you see of my archive are from Forever. And Forever, just to give you a little bit more about it, is a platform for saving, organizing, and sharing your digital media. And it's got a business model that's designed to be long lasting. So there's a mechanism in place that this will be around if something happens to me, that my family has access to it. I'm not going to talk in verbose about Forever, but that is what I use, and that is what you'll see in my screenshots. Now, our records and photos have stories, don't they? Right? You can look at a photo and you can know the story behind it or get the story from a family member. And this is an example from my own family. This is my mother that you see here with her hands kind of on her stomach because she is pregnant with me. I am in her stomach in this picture. And every time we bring up this picture, she loves to tell me the story. And I'll share a little bit of the story with you. This was a photo that was taken on her last day of work, and they were throwing her a party. And the reason it was her last day at work is because I was hurting her. The way I was positioned in womb was I was kicking her, I was causing her pain. She could not sit to do her job. So there's a whole story behind this photograph. So what I'm able to do is tell the story alongside the photo. I've embedded this into the properties of the photo. Now, here's a tip for you. Action step number 8. When describing your photos, be descriptive. Use tags. I like this poem from Rudyard Kipling. I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. And I share this because this is what we do when we write descriptions, right? We tell the who, what, where, when, how, and maybe why. And so that's a good reminder for us all when we're writing descriptions on our digital photos. Be descriptive. Give the who, what, where, when, why, maybe how. I can also apply tags. So for that picture I just showed you, I've got a tag of my mother's name, a tag of my name, a tag for work because it was in a work setting. What that does is allow me more options in navigating this digital archive. So the descriptions and the tags are searchable. So here is a tag for my name. I can go to my collection and access everything with the tag for my name. I can go to my collections and access everything with the tag for work. And I can search. In the description of that photo, I put the word womb. I can search for womb and that picture comes up. All right. Action item number 9. Use batch editing when possible. That saves you time. What do I mean? Well, in my photo archive, I can select a whole group of images and do the same action on all of them. So these are a group of images from a birthday party my daughter had we had for our daughter when she was 7. So I've selected all the images and I can put the same description on them. I don't have to go in and write a description for each one individually. So yes, this saves me time. I can do the same thing with tags. I can select all of them and put the same tags on them that I need. I don't have to do it individually unless I have a specific need. So as much as possible, batch editing is a great way to save time. All right, and wrapping up here to the end of the presentation, let's talk about expressing. How do we share stuff with others? So action item number 10. And I do see some questions in the chat about past actions. I will summarize them, so don't worry, you won't miss it, and I'll cover those actions again. But action item number 10, archive in triplicate. You may have heard of the concept of a 3-2-1 backup plan. Well, the 3-2-1 backup plan is a principle where you want to have 3 copies of your stuff. And what that does is help you have those multiple copies so that you can follow this rule of lots of copies keep stuff safe. The 2 in the 3-2-1 backup plan refers to having your stuff saved on at least 2 different types of hardware. It could be your computer and an external hard drive and a thumb drive, right? 2 different pieces of hardware. What that does is help protect you against hardware failures. I actually literally right now have a hard drive on my computer that is failing, so I need to get a new one. One of your copies should be geographically separated from you. That is what the 1 means in the 3-2-1 backup plan. Often, this means in the cloud. This protects you against natural disasters. Because if you only have your collection sitting on your computer in your home or on an external hard drive on your desk in your home, and something happens to your home, you want to know that you have another location that is safe. I am in Tampa, Florida. We are now in hurricane season. So I personally need to make sure I'm not limiting myself to having my items only physically stored in my home. When it comes to having multiple copies, I do also want to point out we should be careful about syncing services. So Dropbox, iCloud, Google Drive, OneDrive, depending on how you set these up, you may find yourself where you are not truly having a backup. It could look like a backup, but it might be a sync. Meaning, if you have a file on your desktop and you delete it, if it's synced, it will also get deleted from the cloud. So it's not truly an independent backup. You want to make sure that that backup is not tied to the same location as you're trying to back up. So be careful when setting up these services that you're not in a sync situation and counting it like it's a backup. Action item number 11, preserve digital files and use format migration. What does this mean? It means that our formats change over time. As years go by, technology improves, formats change. So we want to think about how durable our media is. We want to think about how we handle our media, and we want to think about obsolescence or failing media. Like I mentioned, my hard drive is failing. I have a link here for a great article online that talks about these format migration measures more in depth, because I don't have the time to go into it. So this is a good resource if you want to know more. But we need to keep in mind the hardwares and formats change over time. And we need to do our due diligence to make sure we're migrating our content, that if we have our content on a floppy drive, we get it off that floppy drive into a more preserved state. I have an example from the Library of Congress. Think about this, the Library of Congress, the top library in our country. They have a collection of items from Carl Sagan when they brought his archives in, and they were not able to process 78 of his floppy disks. They just couldn't. Those disks couldn't be read. They were not formatted correctly. So even the Library of Congress struggles with this. So you are not alone, right? But that just goes to show how important it is to migrate our content. And the last action item is to plan your family archive estate. What do I mean by this? What I mean is think about what your family would want from your collection when you're no longer here. We often see stories about how the younger generations don't want our stuff and don't want the things that we find to be precious and important. And of course, this doesn't apply to everybody, but we see it happening. So what can we do to ensure we're leaving it behind for our next generations in ways that are going to appeal to them? Think about the formats you're using. I have heard people tell me, oh, I have all my pictures backed up on a CD drive. Well, laptops these days don't even come with a CD disc reader, right? Or people say, oh, I have it on a thumb drive. Well, thumb drives fail too, unless you're doing that active process of keeping that up. So we need to be conscious about that. Consider that. People will tell me, oh, they have passwords to my accounts. I've given passwords to my family members. But really, sharing passwords is a short-term solution. You're leaving a burden for your family members to keep up with that password or remember that password. So there are other options that we have available to us. These are pictures of my daughter. And with my own archive, the way we have it set up is she has her own access point into the account. And she knows how to go in there and pull things out of our family archive. And right now, so she's 18. Right now, she doesn't care about our family history. I really haven't got her there yet. But you know whose history she does care about? Hers. So she knows how to go in and grab photos from when she was younger, and she uses them. She makes videos. She grabs photos of her and her friends where they were babies and kids. She uses them and makes, videos for them too. So she knows how to access our family archive to get those photos of her. I consider that a gateway because I'm hoping that as she gets older, she goes in and she appreciates the archive of the other family history content. But it's not just her. I've got all of our children in here, several family members, cousins who have access to the archive. For time purposes, I'm going to skip this. But basically, I just have a point here to say, I have a way to connect multiple family members so they can access the archive, as I just mentioned. And I have my archive expressively set up in an organizational system that I am trying to make it easy for them. I have these buckets of content. They can easily read the buckets and know where to go for what. So to summarize the 12 action steps, and I know there are a lot, but to summarize the 12 action steps, I have put them here on this slide that you can come back and refer to. So date your records and photos, scan and archival quality. When collecting photos from others, get the original. Create a hub as your digital home. Consider using a database for more flexibility. Apply file names consistently. Figure out what platform meets your needs, like I went through that process. Take the time to tell the stories with descriptions and tags on your photos. And when possible, try to use batch editing. And then archive your materials in triplicate. Follow that 3-2-1 backup rule. Make sure you're thinking about formats and how they evolve over time, and be conscious as you plan what you're leaving behind for your family. And I share this picture of these steps here because I know it seems like a lot of steps to be taken. This is a picture of some of the steps that you can take to lead up to Coit Tower in San Francisco. They're called the Filbert Street Steps, and there's about 300 of them. And when I went to go visit Coit Tower, I said, I'm going to take these steps. I'm going to use that to get up to Coit Tower. And I got to the steps and I thought, oh my gosh, what did I just do to myself? However, you will notice the steps have landing points, and you can go up the steps and stop where you need to stop, rest, and keep going. So you have opportunities to pause, catch your breath. And I share this just to say, it seems like a lot, but pick one thing, get started, pause, catch your breath. Try not to let it overwhelm you that you think you have to do all this at once. You can absolutely break this down into pieces to think about your own plan for organizing your family photos for the future. So I invite you to follow along with me in my Family Archive 365. I share this publicly on multiple social media outlets. And then I just want you to consider that leaving a legacy requires a plan, right? You're trying to build a good foundation for your future family, for your family's future with your family history archive. So it's important to make sure you have your pillars in place. And the important pillars when you're thinking about your archive is knowing what you have, creating that archive, using good methods to keep that archive going, and figuring out your time management so you can work on that archive and make it available. Because without these pillars in place, your family archive is in jeopardy. Your family history is in jeopardy. And you want a good, solid foundation for your future generations and the legacy you leave. So I thank you for allowing me to share this with you here. And I have a Facebook community that I would love to have you join me in. It's called the Academy of Legacy Leaders. But it is my hope that those strategies, I'll back up, are ones that you can think about as you consider your own organizational plan. And I'm happy to answer questions if anyone else has them.
All right, that was fantastic. So we all need to organize.
We all do, right?
I know.
All right.
Lori said, best organizational information I've ever seen. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope
You
it's
did.
helpful. I hope it's helpful. Did I see Kay, you had your hand raised? Or
Oh, that was applause.
oh, that was applause. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So on
Oh.
the, I don't see any other questions yet. They might come in, but
Mhm.
one thing I did have is, how does this work with video as well?
Oh, very good question. Yes, with video, the same principles apply. Now, I will say that when you're adding descriptions on video, the metadata properties are not quite as standardized as they are for photographs. So with videos, I tend to put a little bit more description in the file name than I usually do. I generally like to keep my file name short, but with a video, I try to put a little bit more description in the file name because the descriptions aren't always transferable. Now, in my platform that I use, it's pretty much the same. I can put a nice description next to a video file and my family can see that. But I know not everybody, will use that platform. So
Right.
adding a little bit more detail in the file name could be helpful. But the same principles apply even with video. It's no matter the media, really. Photo, video, PDF files, you can transfer these principles to all of those formats.
All of them. Okay.
Mhm.
And now is Forever a membership base? How does that work?
So yeah, so Forever
Okay.
is not membership based.
Okay.
What it is, you sign up for an account and there's storage space you can purchase.
Okay.
If you purchase the storage space, they make a commitment that your items are going to be preserved for a long time. Hence the name Forever. And the way they do that is their business model. The money we pay, part of it goes to, it's kind of like an endowment fund. It's part of it's restricted and it's legally restricted that they use that to pay for our space. So their business model is designed that way. And like I said, they're not the only company that does permanent storage. There's also permanent.org that fosters and caters more towards nonprofits. There are differences between them, right? And I chose the one I chose for reasons, but we're seeing this permanent storage model begin to come out in different ways.
Yeah, because it's definitely needed. I mean, we
Yes.
need to organize it where it's going to be there forever.
Yeah.
And then how do you cite where you get pictures from? Do you do that or do you just do the description?
Ask your question again. I'm not sure I understood.
How do you cite that where you got that photo? So like if you pulled it off Facebook or you pulled it from, you took a picture of it, scanned it at a relative's, how do you cite that in the description?
Good question. I do put it in the description.
Okay.
Yeah, there are different ways you can handle it, but yeah, I like to put it into the description.
Okay, let's see. Phil has any tips for huge collections? I have scanned all of them to photo albums, some of my great grandparents. There's over 20,000 photos.
It's a lot of photos, Phil. Well, it depends on what you feel your next step is, but if you've done that work, and kudos to you, that's an incredible amount of work. And you have this collection. I think my next step I might propose is doing some sorting somehow. So maybe you can sort them by general decades or sort them by family lines, get them sorted and then tackle a small group at a time.
Otherwise you get scared away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Don said this was fantastic. Thank you. Laura, I think you know Laura Martin.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Laura. Great. Yay. Thank you for tuning in.
She said you knocked it out of the park. Okay. And then do you want to share how they can find you on social media?
Yes,
Platforms you're on?
absolutely. Yes. So my website is taniakuntz.com. You can find me in my Facebook community. It's called Academy of Legacy Leaders. So you can just search for Academy of Legacy Leaders. We have a community of close to 2,100 people now. We talk family history all the time. It's a great community. I really enjoy participating, engaging with everyone there. And my Facebook page. So if you Google my name, you'll find me.
You will. I see you're everywhere. And do go and check out her blog. I mean,
oh yeah, I do have a blog. Yeah.
Tanya, you have like a vast amount of information on there that people could get lost in forever.
Yeah,
But,
I love sharing. Like I have learned so much in this journey. I learn from others, and I just love sharing what I do in case it's
Yeah.
inspirational for someone else.
Yeah, you've been fantastic, and you're a huge part of the genealogy community on social media. So, and more people are on social media to
Yes.
connect with others, and we
Yes.
are passionate about family history.
Yes, as you know. Yep.
Yep, we're everywhere.
And I do want to say, someone asked a question, and I don't know if it was my internet that blipped out, but let me just reiterate what action 4 was,
Yes.
because there was a couple questions about action item number 4. So action item number 4 was creating a central hub. So my background is in information science, and there's this theory that you centralize your content and reuse from it as you need. So that's what I use in my own organizational strategy. My Forever Archive, my archive is my central hub. So everything goes in there first. And if I want to attach something to an ancestry tree, I'll attach it to a tree. If I want to add something to my family history website, I'll go in my archive and make a copy and put it on my family history website. But everything starts in my hub. So that's what action item number 4 is, creating a central hub.
And you can all go and rewatch this. You'll
Yes.
find it here on Facebook, on our channel, IGS. And then we will also be posting it on YouTube, so you guys can see it there. But if you have any questions at all, do not hesitate to reach out, because
Yes, please do.
she has, I don't know how she fits all that knowledge. But she's the go-to person for digitizing, and she knows what she's doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for allowing me to share with you all today. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
I'm so glad you were willing to do this. And
Yes.
because you did, it benefited so many people, and I think they just got so much value out of just this short amount of time. So,
Hey.
so
All right.
all right. So we're going to shut down our Facebook Live for now. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, you can post them below. Reach out to Tanya. She's here on social
All
media.
right.
All
Thank you,
right,
everybody.
guys. Bye, everybody.